Yeah, I met somebody in my junior year of high school, and we got along really well. He made me feel really understood, and we were very, very similar. And I spent a lot of time and energy, investing into our relationship because I no longer felt alone. He was a constant companion, and I was actually really consumed by our relationship. I found myself feeling good when we were good, and I felt good about myself. I felt good about life. And then when we weren't doing well, I kind of lost myself. The summer before I went to Stevens, that relationship ended, and I was completely depressed. I began to question God. My interaction with God was that, God was like Santa. I thought that my good behavior meant that, that he had to bless me with things that would make me happy, and this relationship was something that I wanted. And when it didn't work out, I told God that, I was going to write my own rules. I was going to do what I wanted, push my own limits. And when I went to Stevens, I made friends, and, we went out to parties. I started to drink. I had a social scene. I had everything that you could ever want going into college. That guy was back in my life, but I still felt empty, and I felt like it had to do with relationships, and I didn't realize that I was really craving a relationship with Jesus. It was around this time that I started to consider transferring out of Stevens when I got a knock on my door. And it was some students inviting me out to the Christian Fellowship meeting on campus, and I figured, what the heck, I'll check it out. Nothing else is doing it for me. So it was the first time I ever saw students my age expressing their love for God, and they seemed like they had complete joy, and they seemed so confident and whole and fearless, and I knew that that's what I wanted. So I kept coming back. I realized that everything that I had been looking for in this one relationship could actually be found in God perfectly. And I was overwhelmed when I realized that I had been worshiping this one relationship when God should have been sitting on the throne of my heart. Relationships haven't gotten easier since knowing God, because I still struggle with my identity. And I think that's where it all comes down to. Where do I find my identity first? And when I find it in God, when I'm reminding myself of who He says I am, that's when I find myself loving selflessly and fearlessly. But I know that when, there's those moments when fears and insecurities and lies come into my heart and mind, and I start being selfish and I start to hurt people. I wish that I didn't struggle with selfishness. I wish that I could know God the way God sees me perfectly. But for now, I know that His presence, in my life, in my heart, the moments that I spend leaning into Him, He's going to keep teaching me through my struggles and my weaknesses that it was never about my ability to love people, but it was more about, and it will always be about, His work in me. I could never earn God's love, but He gave it to me anyway. He said I was worthy, worth dying for. I can take that and know that I can walk confidently and love fearlessly because he loved me first.